Hi, I'm Eileen Carina, president of Pulse Center for Patient Safety, Education, and Advocacy, and we are here celebrating Pharmacy Week, October 18th to 24th. We're here with Clemencia Solorzano, who is a pharmacist. We heard from a major hospital and works in research, right? Does research, and she's giving us some great tips on medication safety for the week. This is a great conversation, really interesting information. So let's start off with, how does a doctor decide which, not just brand, but is it brand name or a generic they call it, which is, I guess you could explain, maybe explain the difference in generic and brand name. And how does a doctor decide which one they're going to give to the patient or prescribe for the patient?
Okay, so after a drug is approved, usually the brand name drug is the drug that is available to everyone. After the patent expires, which is about 9 to 15 years or so, it just depends on the drug. After the patent expires, then generic manufacturing companies can make that drug very similar to the original drug and market it with the generic name is the same, the brand name may be different.
So what would be an example?
So there is Norvasc, which is a blood pressure medication, and the generic name would be amlodipine. And so there are many manufacturers of amlodipine. The original pharma company that brought that drug to trial have the brand name of Norvasc. And so initially you may see physicians writing for Norvasc, and that was the only drug on the market at the time until the patent expired. And now generic manufacturing companies can make a drug with same drug with just very similar bioavailability characteristics that the patient can now get.
Now I've heard of a blood pressure medication. I've never heard that name. How many different kinds of blood pressure medications are there, and how does a doctor choose which one when there are so many?
There's several blood pressure medications, and you're right. The doctor chooses based on the characteristics of the patient. So you could have a patient with renal problems, and so one blood pressure medication may be better for that patient than another patient. Some ethnic considerations. There are genetic factors in what you may choose for certain patients based on their race. That also determines maybe how the doctor will choose what they have to, what medication that they will put them on. And the other characteristics, the other diagnoses, the other health characteristics, the other laboratory values may determine which of all those medications should be taken. So if a patient has heart failure, including, and they have blood pressure problems, they may use a certain medication rather than another one. And so there's a whole discriminatory, algorithm that goes into choosing which medication should be best with this patient. And then, what happens after that is that the patient takes it, may have a side effect, and so we go to another arm of that, the choices that are there.
And that's a good reminder not to ever share medication.
Absolutely.
Just because if I'm staying with a family member for a week and I forgot my blood pressure medication, I guess I can't be borrowing that family member's blood pressure medication just because I forgot mine. So a reminder. Clemencia, I've heard about the FDA, and especially now with COVID going on, I keep hearing Food and Drug Administration. What exactly does the FDA do in all this?
The FDA is the Food and Drug Administration, and they are the body that is responsible for approving medications after being studied. After the research is completed, the companies will send their data and the results of all the research to the FDA for review and approval of that drug to be marketed. So it starts off with the company submitting what is called an investigational new drug application to the FDA to say that we have this particular product that we would like to study in humans, and the research protocols are set up in such a way that they study for first for safety, then they study for efficacy, if there's anything there, if the product actually has any effect in the disease state that they're looking at it. And then they do larger research trials with usually placebo-controlled trials to determine how efficacious the drug is and whether it can be approved for marketing. So the more patients that get exposed to the drug or placebo, they can now do a statistical comparison of whether the drug is effective in the disease state, more so than not having a treatment. And so that's how they come up with this. Actually, all this data gets submitted to the FDA and they review it, and then they will approve the drug for marketing.
So is it going to the FDA for approval before it's even tested? Or is it the FDA?
So so the applications for testing is submitted to the FDA initially. And so they get approved to do testing. And then once the data for each phase of that study, so you have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, then that information actually gets submitted to the FDA for review and for approval.
And what are the different phases? You said.
Okay, so the phase 1 would be in a very small population of patients. And what they're looking for is actual safety. Where is the drug being deposited in the body? What are we looking for? What kind of major side effects should we be looking for? So is it going to affect the liver? Is it going to affect the kidney? Is it going to affect the heart? And so you look for those things in the phase 1 trial. In the phase 2 trial, now you're looking to see where the drug will be, whether the drug is effective or not. And so you may be getting different doses of the drug to see what's the maximum tolerated dose, and you will see whether it has any effect, positive effect, in the disease state that they're studying it. In phase 3 trials, now they go to thousands and thousands of patients where they start looking for review of efficacy and safety in more detail, because the more patients that get the drug is the more data you have as to whether it should be, whether it can, whether it will be proven to be effective in that disease state, or in addition to being safe, relatively safe in the majority of patients. So anything that, if you see an unexpected, so in the beginning, we know which organs it's going to affect. If in the phase 3 trial, you may see something that was not identified in the earlier trials. And so then the FDA can come back and say, you need to do more studies because this side effect wasn't really noted then.
Great information. This has been so helpful. I can't thank you enough for being here.